This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Yeah, buddy, let's do this. All right. I think I'm close to bypassing the security system. Just a little bit more time. There. Okay, good. The lock is bypassed. I got the door open, but it's only open a little bit. Hang on, let me try and widen this thing out. Oh, crap, it's stuck.
Do you think he can open it?
I don't know. I mean, at age 50, his strength went down by a point.
But his wisdom is supposed to go up a bit.
Hey, do you think you guys could help?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, we can help.
Yeah, we can help.
Okay, now. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, there it is.
There it is. All right, nice job, Bob. All right, now we can get into the garage tonight.
Yes. So let's get inside and get set up. For tonight's a new episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. On episode 399, we're going to go to the garage and take a look at the mechanics of helping. Then we're going to go over the conversation corner and talk about what's going on in life. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I'm Old Man Logan.
Woo-hoo.
Hello, everybody.
All right, really quick. Let's just quick check in. How are pandemic-wise? Like, how are we all doing, Bob?
I'm doing all right. I cleaned up the COVID
You
beard.
really did, man. You really did.
Clean that up a little bit, although the hair is still way too friggin' long. But I am getting a haircut on Thursday.
Oh, hey, all right.
A masked, socially distant from other people except for the hairdresser haircut.
With your normal?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep.
Tell Jen I said hi.
Yeah.
How about you, Jer?
Very good. The new employee that we hired has been doing really well, has been surpassing what everybody was expecting. So that's a nice change. And we just hired a new person who starts in 2 weeks, who's actually very qualified for the new position we created. So at work, things are getting much better, much more relaxed. And personally, I've started to eat better, yesterday notwithstanding. And I'm starting to walk more, get more exercise. I've gotten out and walked at least a mile almost every day.
Conversation corner.
You jumped into the one thing, actually.
Oh, that's where we
jumped into
well, that's where we are.
Jerry's drifting.
I'm reading my bullet point. So
I will
that's
say
COVID for me. So
I will say really quickly, I'm doing fine. I'm still healthy. I'm working from home still. We'll be working from home on into the fall. Again, we're all in New York State, state that's actually keeping its numbers down. And for that, I would say it's a little relaxing around here. I'm like more and more skittish of like every state around us.
Yeah.
So I think a few states got added to the quarantine list, right? So New York State has a list now that if you come from a certain set of states, based on their state metrics, you have to quarantine for 14 days. I think a few new states got added to that list.
Yep, they added Oklahoma, Delaware, and one other one today.
Yeah, so. I'm getting nervous because and I'll talk about it in the conversation quarter, but I'm gonna go visit my parents in a couple of weeks. But luckily they're in Connecticut. So as long as Connecticut can hold the line, I'm not gonna have any problem going to see my parents in a few weeks. Anyway, okay, with that aside, since we're all healthy and everybody is safe, let's actually jump into our one thing. So Bob, your one thing's a nice milestone.
Yeah, I dipped under 200 pounds again, so that's twice in 3 weeks. I weigh in every Saturday morning, and last week I went up just a little bit, but I'm hovering in the 200 range, so hopefully I can get it down a little bit and start to keep it down. My high water mark earlier this year was like 211, I think. So, it's nice to be down in a more reasonable area. I am never going to get down to the quote unquote, you're 54 years old and you're 5'10", you should weigh 185 pounds. Bullshit. That's not happening. I hope to get down to 195, but I figure I will spend probably the rest of my days until something happens and I start getting super old. But the healthy part of the rest of my life is probably going to be between 195 and 200. So that's where I'm going to be. But yeah, all of this making meals at home and not eating out fast food and restaurant food definitely makes a difference. There's
Right.
no question about that. And I never ate super shitty when I ate out, but and I always tried to watch the calories, but it's been a whole different ball game just making stuff at home.
No, I totally concur. I think home cooking, like, and just staying away from restaurants in general has like, I'm definitely losing weight while we're in lockdown. So, and talking about losing weight, Jerry, how about you?
Yep, I've been doing the same. I've been nowhere near 200, unfortunately, but I've been cooking a lot more meals to take to work, eating salads and such instead of getting out, ordering out every day, eating more cooked meals at home. Yesterday was a disaster. I tried to make two different things that both messed up at home. I had to go to a wake first things, and then I got home and tried to put something together and burnt one dish, and the other one was freezer burned. I didn't realize when I cooked it. So at 7:45, I went up to KFC. So yesterday was a failure when it comes to healthy meals.
Hey, you tried twice. Like, after two times, like going to get a meal out is just, that's what happens.
And but what I've been doing is there's a park at the end of my street, 5 houses down, that has a 1 mile walking path. And so I've been trying to go out at least 5 days a week and walk for a mile at the end of every day, just kind of unwind, get healthier, just get myself up over, I want to hit like 8,000 steps a day again. I used to do that a lot. And so I'm getting close. I've done it for most days. So it's getting there. It's gonna take some time, but it's a goal and I can actually achieve it. So I'm working at it.
Oh, that is, you guys have reminded me that is the thing that I have not done yet. So I have been, I've been really good about eating at home, right? Lots of home cooked meals, not snacking, right? Like not getting crazy and just eating stuff. Shouldn't say crazy. Sorry. Not getting wild and just eating stuff, because I'm bored. Like I really don't eat anything unless I'm actually hungry, which has been great. But I haven't been walking, and I hadn't been walking at work, but like I discounted the 10-minute walk to and from my car twice a day at work as some number of steps, plus just the fact that like in my office, the bathroom was in the downstairs and my office was in the upstairs. So, during the course of the day between coming in and out of the office, lunch, bathroom, whatever, like I got, flights of stairs all through the day.
Yep.
And everything in my house is like 20 feet away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, I'm not getting the steps in, and it's super hot out. So I'm also like going out and taking a walk at like 91 degrees in Buffalo. And I'm like, not in love with it.
Yeah.
So I did. So I know I got to do something about it. So I put on my to-do list for tomorrow to revive my Fitbit. My Fitbit has the thing where if you sit too long, it yells at you.
Yep.
So I'm going to start relying on it to be like, hey, get up and walk somewhere.
You've been sitting too long, dummy.
Like even if I just walk out of the house and go to the end of the block and then walk back, it's still more steps than I'm getting, right?
Yep.
So I need to I need to get up and move around. I'm super good at sitting.
Yeah.
Too super good at sitting. So I definitely need to up my walking game.
Sitting, that's where I'm a Viking.
Oh man, I'm like I can get from my chair. So I can get from my chair to the couch in under 10 feet, right? Like I can get, well, not under 10 feet, probably like 20 feet, right? I can get like, because my office is in the middle of the house. So the kitchen is right behind me. The living room's right next. Like once I come down in the morning, like dressed and ready for work, like I can just do like this little circle, and I'm like bathroom, kitchen, living room, office, bathroom, kitchen, living room, office. I just like get like no steps at all. Yeah. So
I've got it even worse. If I wanted to, I could get out of the chair I'm sitting in right now and crawl into bed.
Oh, I know what it looks like when the background's not
Yeah,
on.
Yeah.
This is where I am all day long. When I'm working, I'm sitting in this chair. When work is over and I'm fiddling around, watching TV, whatever, it's in this chair.
Yeah. That's
Everything
been me.
happens here. So I
Yeah.
get up
See,
and I take laps around the house. I go to the front window. I look out.
What I started doing yesterday, and that is partially because I have a new employee, is every couple hours when I'm working on like looking over blueprints or something, I'll get up and just do a walk through the office, walk out of the main office, go back to the warehouse, check on the shipping room, ask him what he's been doing differently because he's been it's his area now, so he's been reorganizing things in a good way. Walk around, walk upstairs to the lab, and just do a quick walk around for like 2-3 minutes just to get up and move around. And same thing, Phil, just to get those steps.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't have an office to walk around right now.
I
was doing that. I was doing that back, like when we were in the office and I had my Fitbit. I would just like when it would buzz, I would like get up and like walk over to the other building and then like walk back from the other building. It was great, but like right now, it's definitely the one negative side to being home is that I have not incorporated steps. Anyway,
there is one other thing. I also got sideswiped to this on Friday. So that's
yikes.
I was going to make a left-hand turn out of a merging lane, and some guy, as I pulled forward, I think he thought he was going to zip ahead of me and didn't judge it correctly. So I spent about 20 minutes walking around my parking lot today talking to an insurance agent. That's what made me think of that.
No, that'll get you your steps.
Nobody was hurt, and after he kind of realized that it was his fault, he was very sociable, and by the time the cop got there, we were both joking and laughing and talking. So the best way to deal with those situations is not to yell and scream, but just kind of go,
Yeah, I mean,
and
so
then
insurance is for.
And then when you talk to the insurance agent, always be direct. It wasn't we were up there and he hit me. When we got to the corner, he hit me. When his car came forward, it hit me. Don't ever give them any leeway on that.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah. So lastly, oh no, I didn't actually get my thing in. You guys have been. I just really briefly, I think last week I mentioned I was towards the end of my big project at work, and Wednesday kind of hit the major milestone that we were looking for. So Wednesday and Thursday we wrapped up some stuff, and then I actually took a couple of days off. I took Friday and Monday off to get a 4-day weekend. And I'm just like now, like came back to work today, and I've just started kind of wrapping that project up. So like 1 year in the making, and almost ready to be shut down, which is a fantastic feeling. I love when it's time to bring down a big project. So
yeah,
very good. Okay, now I will do announcements. Just a reminder, our Star Trek Next Generation Watch Club is entering into week 6. We have I think 4 more weeks to go. Pretty much the month of July and into the beginning of August, which the beginning of August is the finale for TNG. This week we head into what I think, I will make this statement, I don't even think it's that bold of a statement, season 5 may be the best season of Star Trek Next Generation. When you go and look at the totality of the 25 or 26 episodes in that season, season 5 is by far a contender for being one of the best seasons of Star Trek. We are watch partying tonight with what I will say is arguably my favorite Star Trek episode, Next Gen episode of all time, which is Darmok. Followed up with Ensign Rowe, which is a very important one as we head into as we are going to start DS9 after TNG.
Yeah.
More details about the DS9 watch club in the weeks to come. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
That all wrapped up. Bob, I don't even know. Do you have the number pad?
I have a garage bumper.
Access granted.
And there it was.
All right.
Yay.
Cool. I wasn't sure if that was in your collection.
Yeah. I have all the old classic ones. It's just we haven't used them in so long.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Tonight we return to the garage. And in full disclosure, this is actually a Redux episode. we actually did this back in the 160s. But again, anything before 200 is like we literally never did the show before. So tonight we return to the garage where we take apart mechanics from games and look at how they work, figure out how to make them work in your game. For this episode of the garage, we are going to look at the assist or / teamwork mechanic. But in order to do that, we need to take a closer look at the mechanics. So Jer, how does the assist work?
All right. This is going to be a mechanic, and this is not the group mechanic where a bunch of people all work together to do one thing. This is when one character helps to ease the difficulty of a task by helping another. For example.
Yep. So like you got a hacker who's attempting to break the encryption code for a valuable database, and the techie sits down with the hacker and is like, hey, you know what? I know some encryption. I know some tech stuff as well. Maybe I can help.
And this can be done both in combat situations and in non-combat situations.
Right. Absolutely. Like flank in Pathfinder or 3.5, right? Flank is very much a combat assist, but those almost always fall under specialized combat rules. Mm-hmm. Right. So we'll just, if you're okay, we're just not going to not talk about those tonight. Yeah. Okay.
Next, our goal is, in most cases when we're doing this, we're trying to make things that are more challenging, much more possible, and to encourage the teamwork thing. And this is something that a lot of games have, and a lot of times it's the cornerstone of what makes that game work well with multiple players. So yeah. We'll talk about the group mechanic in another episode. This is just about one or more players helping somebody else, not all doing the same task. So Phil, you want to break this down for us?
I do indeed. All right. So if we're looking at this mechanic now up close, kind of like observing how all the gears click. So on a player's turn, somebody will take an action, right? Could be picking a lock, could be researching, could be researching in a library, whatever it is. And then one or more characters who have not yet acted will agree to assist, right? Because the act of assisting is, in many action economies, a significant action. Okay. And then often, but not always, there can be a threshold to qualify to assist. So sometimes there's no threshold. Literally just saying I assist is all you need, and you get whatever the assist effect is, which we'll talk in a second. Other times, this requirement could be narrative. So you are able to assist as long as you can describe. Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry.
It's okay.
I was on a roll. I'll do this one. You tell me the rest of them. So it could just be narratively, right? Like describe to me how you assist. And if that description is good enough, the GM allows the assist to go through.
This also happens that there are a lot of games where you have to have a skill that would help. So if the hacker is trying to hack something, you need to have some sort of technical assistance or some other skill that would allow you to help the hacker. Just standing behind them going, "You can do it," isn't going to be enough.
Right. Which is fair, right?
Yeah. And some games just simply add a bonus, but other games may require a check by the character making the assist. And so they may need to make a skill check of their own to add their benefit to the result of the person making the main check.
Yeah. So the idea being like you have successfully completed your skill, therefore you can contribute to the bonus. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So cool. So we'll go back. So some criteria often has to be met. Mm-hmm. And then if it's met, then there is a bonus that goes into whatever the check is, right? So the assisting bonus. And a lot of times that can be a single bonus, or some number of people can also contribute to assisting. Sometimes rule systems will have a cap for how many that can be, so that you don't, when you're playing like an 8-person table, everybody's like, I assist, right? And like you drive up like a, plus 20 or something on the check, right? So sometimes there is a limit to that. And then the check is made by the player. So the player now just takes the bonuses, makes the check in whatever manner the check is made in your game. The outcome is determined, and then the consequences from the outcome are assigned, assigned and described in the narrative. So if it was successful, it was successful, the complication, whatever. Then you resume play. So with that kind of definition of the assist and a breakdown of how the little pieces work, we thought we would talk about games that use them. So Jer, I'm all over the place tonight.
That's okay.
Go
ahead.
I'm just going to jump right in with the first one, which is Fate Core. And so Fate Core has a teamwork mechanic, not to be confused with Create Advantage. Create Advantage is a very separate activity that is done, but there is a actually somewhat lesser known rule for teamwork that allows that is exactly this assist rule, right? So a group of people, people can help somebody who is trying to complete a task. And the way they do that is you figure out who has the highest skill. That's the person who's going to make the check. The other people have to have at least a +1, right? There's your criteria, right? Has to have at least a +1. And then if they do, they add a +1 to that player. So the criteria is met, the bonus is a +1, and then you roll. And I don't think that there is an upper limit to it, but I think within reason, you kind of figure out how many people you could pack into it, into that kind of check. So that's Fate Core. Jer, a game that exceedingly well. How does it work in Savage Worlds?
In Savage Worlds, at least with the old rules, the new ones have slightly differences, but basically one person's making the main role and anybody else who wants to assist has to make a skill check themselves. And if they get a success on their skill check, they add +1 to the primary character's total. And if they roll the equivalent of a critical hit, which is called a raise in Savage Worlds, which is 4 over your target number. So if you need to roll a 6, you roll a 10, you have a raise. That gives you +2 instead of +1. So having people assist in Savage Worlds can very quickly give the primary player the extra bonuses they need. And Savage Worlds is a game where oftentimes you need to have a skill that applies. Sometimes the exact skill that the main player is using or something applicable. You can't just come in and, if somebody's trying to decipher Sanskrit, if you don't have Sanskrit, you're not going to be able to assist them in deciphering it.
Right. That makes sense.
Phil, why don't you do the next 3 and I'll do the last 2, because I'm more familiar with the last 2 and you're more familiar with the next 3.
Cool. All right. That's cool. That's cool. I can do that.
Yep.
All right. So the next one is Dungeon World. Mm-hmm. Dungeon World has a move for aid or interfere. It's actually the exact same move, whether you're helping or hindering. But the aid move is pretty simple. You're going to make the check. If I remember correctly, it's equal. Your bonus is the number of bonds you have with the character, which I love, right? So it is easier for you to help somebody that you have better connections to. And on the 10+ version of the check, you assist and are free of the consequences, right? So you give them the +1 and you are not bound to the consequences of their move. And on a 7 to 9, I believe you still give them the +1, but whatever outcome they get, you get. So if they take damage or whatever, or if they fail the roll and the GM makes a move against them, they make a move against you as well. And I'm pretty sure that you just one person aids. I don't know if there's a hard rule for that, or I've never seen a case, at least I've never played, where we've all, like a whole bunch of us have done aid at the same time. It's usually like somebody aids. Mm-hmm. I do like in Dungeon World often, and again, I don't remember if this is canon or table rule, but aid after roll is a thing that I really like, which is you don't have to aid before the roll's made. The player can make the roll for the move, and then if they're on the cusp of one of the if they're on the cusp of changing the roll, so if they're on a 6 or a 9, then somebody can be like, oh, I'll aid, and then roll and see if they can push them over. I think that's just a house rule. It does require that somebody has an action free to assist, right? If everybody's tied up in the narrative and this person rolls and there's no one to aid them, then they're stuck with what they got. But I like that house rule because in Dungeon World, aid really only matters when you're on the cusp of going up from a 6 to a 7, because that changes your outcome, and from a 7 to a 10. Cool. All right. Next one was Burning Wheel. Burning Wheel. Again, it's not a game I'm super familiar with. I wish Avi was here, because Avi knows Burning Wheel better than most. But the thing I do remember from it is that when you assist, you actually take a die from your dice and give it to the other player. That player then incorporates that die in their pool and rolls it. And you can actually see if you helped or not, right? Like if your roll got a success or if your roll failed, you actually, like, in the narrative can actually describe whether or not you assisted. Lastly, not too different from Dungeon World, is Hydro Hackers. In Hydro Hackers, there's also an assist move, and in that move, you don't have to roll, but how well you assist is determined by your neighbor's rating. That is, how well you get along with the person that you're trying to help. So if you're really tight with that person, you can actually give them advantage on their roll. And if you are just cool or neutral, you can give them a +1. And if you're not cool with them, you can still give them the bonus, but you got to sweat in order to do it, right? I'm my own game, and I can't quite remember how the move goes, but that is pretty much the gambit of moves, is that it is influenced by how tight you are with the person that you're trying to help, which I like, because if you think about somebody trying to help you, right, like how well you get along with that person has a lot to do with how well they're going to take advice from you.
Yeah.
So I dig that one. Jer, tell me about 5e. That's a game that's got a little assist, right?
D&D has a very simple assist. It's one of the things I really like. And basically, when you assist somebody, you simply give them advantage, which means they roll twice and pick the highest result. I like it as a mechanic because it's simple and it's easy for people to assist each other. Sometimes there's some requirements for it, but it doesn't require a lot of rules, and it really makes a difference in the game without being game breaking. And so players who decide to contribute to assist can do something besides just stab the orc. And the last game system we're going to talk about is the Genesis system, which is Fantasy Flight system for Star Wars, Edge of the Empire, the Terranoth system, which is part of their Descent games, Android, which was their Cyberpunk game, and they just put out the book for Keyforge, which is their new card game. There's now systems. Those are this is the game with all the funky looking dice. When you assist somebody, you simply give them an extra boost die, which is a blue die that you can only get from situations in the game. And so it's very easy to simply say you're going to assist. And so it makes situations in that game, which are already pretty narrative, very narrative, and it allows players to actually build characters whose job it is to be kind of helpful. There are even some talents and even some species talents that let people add extra dice when they assist, which makes it work a little bit better. So
quick question.
Yeah.
Is the boost die, the faces of the boost die, mostly favorable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
in Genesis, you've got the dice that are your dice, that are your skill dice, and you've got the dice that are your opposition dice. Your dice that you're rolling for your character only have either blanks or positive results. And so when you add a boost die, you're adding a die that has, I believe, 1 blank face and 5 faces that have different levels of additional benefits, either additional successes or additional advantages.
Oh, so there's some real value in that. In picking up that die.
And at least one of the races in the game, their racial trait is that they add 2 boost dice when they assist.
We're going to go with species. Regardless.
We're
going to go with species.
Species is better. And I used it the first time and slipped on the second one.
It's okay.
Yes. Yeah. Species. When you have the species in the game, one of the species from Coruscant gets you 2 boost die. We had 2 players in my last game that had this. So
that's a potent.
Oh yeah, when they double teamed to help somebody, it got to be a lot of fun, which was a lot of fun because it meant that when characters gave up their action to actually do something narratively to help other players, it had an effect in the game, and then everybody got to narrate something cool. because Genesis is a very narrative game. So
Yeah.
Genesis is very interesting in that it is both very narrative and somewhat crunchy all in the same, like all in the same time, right? Because like when somebody's like, oh, it's a very narrative game, I'm like, cool, it's got like 16 pages of rules, like 16 pages of rules used to, like, you know, a couple dice and you're through it. And it's like, oh no, it's a big book, plus you roll all these dice. But you actually then have to narrate all this stuff, which I think is great, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it is funny that Genesis is this very interesting.
It's crunchative.
Except that Genesis,
it's a crunchative game.
Except that Genesis has the same thing that Dungeons and Dragons has, which is once you've built your character, you rarely open the rule book unless you're casting spells.
That's cool.
I mean, I have run Genesis for 6 hours and only opened the rule book up to see how fast the spaceship is going, because I'm citing more because the game, all the other mechanics in the game all lead into that. If you've got a character with skills, your skills are just going to give you other dice, other modifiers. So each player might have some special rules, but the game itself pretty much works as build an opposing die pool, add your die pool, roll all the dice together, positive and negative, knock each other out. Whatever you've got left is your narration. And so don't be intimidated by the size of the books. The size of the books is really for character generation. After that, you can run the game mostly off of either a GM screen or a couple of 3x5 cards.
Well, that's cool. I mean, we said the same thing again about DCC last week, which was don't fear that rule book. And actually, Genesis is one that I've always been curious about, because Android is the one that I would like to try at some point, because I think the Android card game was pretty spiffy. And I'm always down for some cyberpunk.
Actually, since from what I understand, the original Android card game was based off of the cyberpunk role-playing game originally.
Yeah, I'm sure, like full circle, right?
Yeah.
Like the big old Simba circle of life kind of,
Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a good system, and it's a good one that, and we're going to talk about this later on, but variations on it are a good way to add assist mechanics to games that don't have it. So anyway, that's Genesis. Play it, enjoy it, pick up colored dice, or use the app now. So,
yeah, absolutely. Jared, tell me about the play experience. Right, like anytime we have a rule in a game, it informs us about something about the game.
Well, first of all, the assist mechanic does a couple things. It's going to allow groups to overcome larger challenges by combining their bonuses, so they can be higher than any one individual character. In other words, if you've got a target number that you can't reach with your number, people assisting you can suddenly make that possible, which means that 3 people together can pull off a heist that one person can't.
I think that's awesome, right? Which then really also says that cooperation is something that's important among players.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It really does lead to making players play better together, and often ties the players together better. It also gives players who might not have an idea for what they want to do on this turn something to do. The player who just sits around, they're like, I'm not sure what to do on this turn. Well, assist so-and-so. And I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that even leads into the idea of the niche of the support character, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there are people who absolutely don't want to be the frontline character, but really like the feeling of helping the frontline character get stuff done, right? Like low-level wizards often fall into this category, yep. Right? Like high-level wizards are their own problem. But the idea of a support character, right? So like, again, if I was playing Genesis, taking that character background from Coruscant so that I could get 2 bonus dice, now I'm definitely the assist character.
One of the players in our game who took that character never had combat skills. We played for about 12 weeks and he never bought a combat skill. He built his entire character around being the scholar assist character.
Yeah.
And that he expected that in any situation where there was going to be a conflict, his character's role was to assist in many different ways. So he built others, just as you said, your niche character, he took other skills that would allow him to assist people that were doing other things. And
yeah.
It made for an interesting character type. It meant that
and it's a totally valid path to take in a game. Yeah.
Yeah. Little crunchy, but that's okay. The game was built for that. And
I dig it.
And you want to wrap us up on this one, Phil?
Yeah, it also allows sub-optimized characters, right? Or characters that are in situations that are out of their niche, right? So it may not even be that they're sub-optimized. It could just be that like, hey, the water mage is in the desert this week. It allows those players to still contribute where their frontline abilities may be totally sidelined, right? The water mage is in the desert, not really doing much water magic, but they're helping out with arcane checks and they're doing those kinds of things. And so they're still keeping it going and they're still contributing, which as a player, right, being able to contribute is important, right? Because if you've ever, and we've all, I think, been in a game like this where you suddenly feel like your character can't contribute something to the adventure, your emotional attachment to the game is gone. Right? Like well, I can't do anything here. Like,
why am I sitting here?
Yeah, why am I sitting here? Right? Like those kinds of things. So it absolutely, this mechanic absolutely helps with that because it gives you something else that you could be doing. I'm not saying that you should bench your water wizard every adventure, but for the one where you have to cross the desert to get to the other ocean or something, this is a good way that the water wizard has some contribution.
I think it also ties in both of this is that some games don't reward not min-maxing your character. Some games really require you to max out on one thing, and that's your only thing. I think of games like Exalted, where if you don't max out your combat skills every game, you're gonna have trouble. Games with good assist mechanics allow players to simply build a character that they want to play regardless of everything else, because they're going to find ways to be useful all the time, even if they're not always contributing to the scenario. If they're in a game with a good assist mechanic, they're never in a situation where they can't do anything. And I find a lot of games with good assist mechanics have players that get a chance to finally play that really quirky concept they always wanted to play that other games didn't let them do.
That's actually why I was horrible at playing Pathfinder, because I would be like, oh, I need this feat, and friends would be like, for what? And I'm like, well, it fits my character that they would have this feat. They're like, but it doesn't really do anything. And I'm like, but it's what he would have. Like,
I'm just playing my character.
Well, it's just like, I don't know. I mean,
I've done the same thing. I've done the same thing.
Yeah, I was not. I don't know. I'm not a fan of. I've never, as a quick side thing, I've never been a huge fan of games that require heavy optimization, because I play so many games that I rarely reach system mastery.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like if I'm going to go play Pathfinder or something, I don't know what the optimal feat progression is for 10 levels for the barbarian. Like, I just want to play the barbarian, right? Like, so I'm just not, like, I'm not good at it. So I just don't like games that do that, right? I just immediately, like, well, I don't even want to say I don't like games that do it. I don't engage in it. And in some games, like you said, Jer, there are penalties. There are consequences for not doing it. Like, suddenly you just keep getting your ass kicked, and now this game's no fun.
This is why I was a frustrating Pathfinder GM to some players, because I used to throw 2/3 of the feats out the window and just tell people, if your character has a logical reason to do this, you can just do it. You don't need to spend a feat on it. And so like, I want to disarm him. Okay, go ahead. But I don't have disarm skill. You're a fighter. You should know how to disarm people and make the roll.
Oh no,
They've got a mechanic which most players had a good time with. A few rules lawyers, and I don't mean that in a negative way, people who were used to playing that kind of game had trouble with me. Where my thought was, if you've been building a character concept all this time, and the next feat that comes up, you should be able to qualify for because it makes sense what you're doing, take it. You're not going to be, it also depends a lot on what you're worrying about. Individual player character accomplishment versus group accomplishment. And that's a discussion for another time. But groups, in a nutshell, groups that are, we don't care who's more powerful as long as the group as a whole gets along.
Yeah.
Don't care about that kind of thing. players who are, I've got to be the best at this one thing. I was a bad GM for them. I was a really bad GM for them because either I let them do it all or they got mad because other people could do it. So
I'm declaring bad, wrong, fun. No, I'm just kidding. You're playing it wrong. No, I mean, I totally get it, right? Like I totally get it. I could see, and I could see somebody who, you know, is you know, following the rules and reading the rule book, you know, like losing their shit because one of the things about that style game is that it does actually mechanically reward the player who does their homework, right? A player who does their homework and studies and picks out their feat progressions and stuff like that, wind up kicking a lot of ass in the game. And that may be a bit crude to say, but true. You wind up kicking a lot of ass in the game. Yeah. And that may be their method of enjoyment. And I say that having had a very good friend in the past who that was their joy to the game, so much so that like when we started playing, they showed me a piece of paper that was like, here is my character progression from levels 1 through 20. And literally when they got a level, they just like checked a line, right? And just took what was on the line and put it into the character sheet and was like, good to go.
They knew exactly what they were taking every level straight through.
And they, you know, for that they derived their enjoyment from that activity. And who am I to critique anyone?
Heavy character optimization is a thing for people, and when they enjoy it, you know, more power to them. But not everybody gets into it.
And with a long-term campaign, once in a while, that's not a bad thing to have. If you have, like I tended to play for a long time, larger groups, 6 players. If I played with 6 players and 5 of them were absolutely horrible at optimization, and 1 was really good, sometimes you needed them for when.
Oh yeah.
The five of us are going to solve mysteries, and when the big bad shows up, we're just going to turn James loose on him and let him go. He's going to have a ball being the hero.
Well, and then they have even more fun because they're because their niche is like, they're not even competing for that niche. They're literally like, I'm the darkness, right? Like once, just point me in the direction and I will do this.
Pop the collar off Jet Li and let him go to town.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Those are the games for Pathfinder. It was fun because we would have groups that would do things where the party would put money into a pool to just buy that character. We're gonna make sure the wizard always has a scroll of enlarge on us, and we'll cover that cost. You just get big and kick things ass.
Oh man, fun. Enlarge. That's a. Last thing before we tie this off because we're heading into the break.
Yeah.
I had a barbarian. I think it was in Pathfinder that we used enlarge on so many times that in Hero Forge, I just had it permanently set up so that I could just click the enlarge button and be like, okay, I'm ready now. Like all my stats have been recalculated. Yeah. Cool. All right, good. Tying this off, aside from our diversion talking about optimal and suboptimal play, or I should say optimize, not optimal.
Yes.
We've covered the assist mechanic, right? We've talked about how it works. We've given some examples from different games. We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how to get the most out of this mechanic in your game. But first, Bob, tell us about a show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
The Gnomecast. Everybody loves the Gnomecast. Several gnomes from Gnome Stew get together to talk about gaming topics and themselves in an effort to entertain you and avoid being thrown in the stew. Very important.
All righty. Cool. Yeah. How's the chat room?
They are enraptured. We do have a couple of things here. Senda was wondering if Genesis spaceship racing / chases, it seems complex. Is it really complex, Jerry?
I don't honestly know because every Genesis space race we've ever had very quickly became a dogfight. And so the last time I ran a space race, somebody flew a Corellian freighter directly through the ship that was closest behind them. So I don't really know, but I would say I would just toss those rules out the window and just make it do it like most games would do, which would be especially actually Genesis would be easier to do because you end up rolling successes, advantages, failures, and disadvantages. So you could simply say, when you get this many successes, you've gotten away from your opponent, or you've gotten further up, and advantages could be used to mess things up. And it's part of the narrative part of the Genesis has a lot of when do you apply these, what can you spend your advantages on? It's like a better version of the age system. But it doesn't have really concrete rules for a lot of things, because it's basically your players might decide to do something totally different. It's a lot like Dungeon World in that you don't say, I'm going to shoot and do this much damage. It's I roll, see what my result is. Now I narrate what happens, and the GM explains what the numbers mean. Because if you shoot, you might be shooting 6 shots, because you might shoot and do 15 points of damage. If you're shooting stormtroopers who have 5 health, you've just taken down 3 stormtroopers. You might not even shot a ball. Maybe you shot 2, and the third shot, hit a bust of Darth Vader that ended on one's head or something like that. But you could narrate that kind of thing. So chases would work the same way. You could say you have to achieve this many successes above your opponent. If you ever have this many more successes than them, then you've pulled away from them.
Yeah.
Advantages might be things like, well, you put an asteroid in their way, or you've done something else. And this is where players can assist a lot by playing with the engines. And if done right, Star Wars space combat reminds me a lot of the old FASA Star Trek space combat, in that everybody has something to do. It's not just the pilot, the gunner, and the guy in the engine room. And so there are ways to there's a lot of assist mechanics there. I've never done spaceship racing though in that game. It's always been shoot stuff.
Yeah, it turns out I misread Senda's comment. She was stating that they're crunchy and awful, and no one uses them because they are so crunchy and awful.
That could be very much it.
Surprise.
As a GM, I've never one to say, this is a horrible rule, we're going to use it. I will always go, you know what? How about we just do this? Good. And we just go with it.
All right, let's jump back into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. So in the second
actually, I think I state for the record, I think that Schmitty pointed this out 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Chases in most games are really badly written. They're second only to grappling in bad rules.
I'm sensing a show topic.
I think we did a chase show, but again, it was way back in the day.
Drop a pin in for me. I'll at least go back and see where we put it. But Jer, you're not wrong. Chase mechanics by and large are pretty awful.
I can't take credit for this. It was the genius of Schmitty that came up with that comment.
Schmitty, wise as always.
Yes.
You're not 100% wrong, and maybe we'll take a closer look at chase mechanics. I have tried to mess with them in the past, and often just shake my head at them.
We've had at least one game that had a decent chase mechanic that was like, wow, this actually is pretty cool.
I will argue that Fate has a pretty serviceable chase mechanic.
I was going to say Tachyon Squadron showed me that Fate does chases pretty well.
Yeah, Fate is probably the one game where I would say chases pretty good. Yeah. Other games,
maybe not so much.
No, I take it back. The other game you're thinking of, Bob, is probably Knights Black Agents.
Yes.
Knights Black Agents actually has a really fun chase mechanic.
Yep,
it has a chase mechanic that's actually so much fun that you actually want to put it into the game. Yeah. As opposed to, somebody's running, I guess we're going to have to use the chase mechanics.
Yeah.
You are correct. Pin that because...
Yep.
Pin that because now I will go get my Knights Black Agents book out and I will look it up. It was I remember we ran one in the Paris catacombs.
Yep.
And it felt like a Jason
It was gripping.
Movie.
It was gripping.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And not mechanically painful.
Yep.
All right, good. Anyway, returning to our topic of the assist, we're going to do 3 questions as we often do in our in these kinds of segments. So, question number 1: how do you, as a GM or player, leverage this mechanic when you prep sessions and when you're at the table running sessions? Jared, you want to take a shot?
Sure. Well, as a GM, I try to encourage encounters where the party can work together. as I've gotten older as a GM, I don't like to have encounters where only one player can do something. So I'd like to ask, does anybody want to assist? This is a good way to bring some of the more introverted players into the game. The person who has just been sitting around, hey, do you want to assist? It's also a good way to shift the focus onto the team itself, and sometimes away from a player who might be monopolizing too much of the game or the scene of the conversation. Some players are just good leaders, and they can, without meaning to, end up taking over the game, and the game becomes about them doing things and the other players are coming along. And so using an assist mechanic is an easy way, if they try to do something, of bringing other players in and giving somebody else a voice. That ties into how, as a player, I play. As a player, I like to look for opportunities to assist in a scene, not to outstage the player who's doing something, but to make them do better things. It's a great way to make encounters the teamwork-based encounters as a player. It's also a nice way to shine the spotlight on another character who hasn't had enough time in game. Either by, as a player, saying, hey, do you want to assist me? Person over here who hasn't been able to do a lot yet, come on in here. Or by assisting them. They're going to do something like, I'll give it a shot, but I've only got a +2, and we're going to need to roll, a 26. Well, good, I'll come and assist you. Maybe now you'll be able to pull that off. And also by setting up an assist for somebody else, by assisting somebody or saying to somebody else something like, hey, I've got this skill, you've got this skill. Why don't you do this and I'll assist you? Or would you like to do this and I'll assist you? You're handing the spotlight to them because now they get to describe what they're doing. I'll assist if you want to do that. It's a good way to move the spotlight around, especially if, as the player, you are the one the spotlight's been on. It's a nice way to hand the spotlight off by turning whatever you're doing into assist for somebody else. It also means that the group is going to work together as a team. So I like assisting. I think it's a great mechanic. What do you think, Bob?
Yeah, everything you just said. When you're a player, you should really take the opportunity to take the initiative to look for opportunities where you can assist. Mm-hmm. Especially if you know your character isn't the one performing the primary action. Take a look at your sheet. Think about other things that you could do that could be useful to assist. Mm-hmm. But don't limit yourself to the actual task at hand. So if the hacker's trying to hack the door lock, don't be sitting there thinking, well, I have no hacking, I don't know anything about door locks, I don't have any mechanical or engineering. Like, go outside of that. Think outside the box. Is there some other kind of action that you can take that will delay the guard's arrival? Mm-hmm. Right? Or if the character that's performing the action, and this is a favorite of some of our friends in the chat room, if the character performing the action has been doubting their abilities recently or has made a bunch of bad rolls and hasn't been succeeding, you can talk them up, give them encouragement. Those kind of things the GM will often, depending on the circumstances in the game you're using, the GM will often go, yeah, that's good, that's an assist, we'll allow it, let's go with it. So don't be constrained to that one little narrow piece of the physical action that the main character is taking at that moment. Look at anything that you think might be useful for an assist, and sometimes you just got to take a shot at it and be like, hey, what if I try X? And the GM will be like, well, I don't know that really applies right now in this circumstance, but nice try. Yeah. Don't lock in on that one thing. It's you don't necessarily have to have a wrench in your hand to assist the mechanic in fixing the engine.
Yeah.
What about you, Phil?
Yeah, so in the last couple of years, I've run so much PBTA that I'm always doing what Jerry's doing, right? I'm always checking with the table about, does somebody want to assist? Because it's a game where assist is, that assist can be the difference between success with a consequence and a clean success, right? So I'm very much inclined to, in a PBTA game, especially because I love using aid after roll to, see somebody roll and then just be like, oh, that's a 9. Like, as anyone who hasn't taken an action, can anyone help with this? And then somebody jump in and assist. So that's always forefront for me. And that carries over now to a lot of other games that I play, because when I play other games now, I try to remember to ask that along the way. I remember, and this was just I think a very fortuitous thing that came out of Hydra Hackers, but assist, like because of how the neighbors system works, when the players would be setting up for, you know, a heist or some sort of, you know, boosting water or whatever, you would just see this really cool coupling where someone would be like, hey, I'm tight with you. Let me come with you because I can assist. Right. And all of a sudden you got this like cool pairing going on. So yeah, so I would say like, I don't think it's not cheating, and there's nothing wrong with encouraging players to assist, right? Like, I want my players to succeed. I'm not, you know, I'm rooting for my players. So I'm not going to obscure a rule that could make this more exciting. And I've seen a number of cases where I've had some really exciting moments in PBTA where, you know, a 7 to 9 could mean taking some damage and possibly losing a character. And somebody rolls a 9, and that, you know, next person comes in for the assist and helps them get the 10. And now, you know, they get away, they get away from whatever the danger is, and there's like a big cheer at the table. So definitely for that. Same thing when I'm a player, the assist rule is like one of the first things I want to learn, because I want to know, can I help someone, right? Or can I pull someone into a scene to help me? Because that's just, you know, it's good because you're pulling extra people into the scenes, and 2, it's, you know, it's leveraging the mechanics of the game to play the game. So I'm always on the hunt for, you know, what's your skill system? What's the assist rule? Where's the assist rule? Let me quick check, kind of thing. Cool. Jer, how about our second question? All
right. So when you're looking at rules for a game, what do you look for, and how the designer has designed this kind of mechanic? What do you look for when you look for a game that has assists in it?
Cool. So I'm going to steal a little from your answer because I'm looking at your answer, but I'll just steal only just the top piece of it. So I do actually go and check now, and I didn't in the past, right? And I will say this, I don't think I'm wrong, but Jerry, your memory at these things is sometimes better than mine. Assist rules are not a thing that have always been in older role-playing games.
Depends on the game. It was not in the traditional like D20, and I don't remember it being in Traveler. It was something that was in games like V&V, and I think Marvel had something in it, the face rip, but it was not common. It was definitely not in every game.
So I definitely came up the ranks where I don't remember assist being in every game. So nowadays, if I look at a game, I very quickly, as I'm kind of like looking through the system to grok it, will check to see where the assist rule is. Because to me, for the same reasons that we cited in the first section, the presence of an assist rule is also an indication of cooperation in the game. Right? So it's telling me something about the game. It's telling me something about the way the game should be played. And then the other thing that I'm big on is I want to see what the criteria is for being able to contribute that die.
Yeah. So
I'm very like, what I really like, and I think Bob said it earlier, you or Bob may have said it earlier, was I like it when it doesn't have to be the same skill. Like if it says like, oh, the player has to have the same skill, then I'm like,
that was bad.
Okay, like that's okay. Like, cause now it has a assist rule, but I like it better if it's like, as long as you can justify this, like it's good to go. Like, you know, if I'm trying to break the encryption and somebody has a really high level of math, which encryption is basically math, but whatever, like somebody's got a high hacking skill and the other person has a high math, like that's good for me, right? Like, so I like that broad assist description. All right, I'll stop and I will I'm going to try not to eat up the rest of Jerry's words.
That's okay. It kind of comes to the fact that we all kind of have the same theory on this.
Yeah, it's true.
First of all, to answer your question, I think what happened because of the way I GM, I think the first time I saw an assist mechanic, I just kind of did that in every game. Even when I was younger, I was never one to not house rule stuff as soon as it became a problem, which sometimes created its own problem. So I don't know when the first assist mechanic came in. I think we were just using them in a lot of games. But second, I want an assist mechanic that's simple to implement and simple to understand. An assist mechanic shouldn't need to be looked up every time you decide to use it.
Yeah.
And it should be useful without being overpowering. I've seen a few games where assists can dominate gameplay. As you can guess from the doubling down on double boost dice, two characters who start out with that species background, which we had, can very easily make mundane challenges basically into cakewalks too often, and get to the point where you're not challenging the players until you put them up against something big. So I've seen them where they can be overpowering. Games like some Savage World settings where they give out a lot of bennies and there are players that can contribute bennies to everybody. You start seeing an assist followed by a benny, and it becomes, trying to say this diplomatically, it becomes a game where it's a question of just how many resources is it going to cost us to succeed, because we're definitely not going to fail. And that's no longer a challenge. I have a term for that, but I won't use it here. And Bob?
Yeah, I agree with what you guys have said already. The first thing that I would look for is, one of the first things is, do we have an assist mechanic? And then how restrictive is that assist mechanic? If I ever GM again, which one day I will, I keep telling myself I'm going to run something someday, but my first thought is going to be, if it's restrictive, that's probably going to be one of the first things that I house rule, is to make it a little more flexible, so that if it's only the same skill, we can broaden that out a little depending on the situation and what's going on. But it's definitely a thing where if you have an assist mechanic, you are encouraging cooperative play at the table. And anything that encourages cooperative play at the table, to me, is a good thing to have in the game. Because that makes a table better. If you're all cooperating and you're all working for the same goal, you're gold. That's one of the reasons why I hate PvP games. Anything where it's encouraging you to go against your fellow player at the table, not a huge fan, not a fan at all.
I'm with you.
But yeah, that's it's I don't. My mind keeps going, it's a no-brainer. It should be a no-brainer. It's not a no-brainer, but everybody has their different ways of playing games and what they like. And, if people don't enjoy that type of play, then don't, more power to them. Enjoy the game that you like to play. But yeah, if I'm doing it, that's the kind of thing I want. I want to have some kind of an assist that is simple, easy to implement, and encourages the cooperation.
So I'm gonna tell you right now. Made a comment about the math skill, and Andy was like, "I won't play a game. I'm not going to play a game that has a math skill." And I, told them to avoid Palladium, right? Yeah. So I'm pretty sure, I was fairly sure Palladium has more than one math skill. So I quickly checked the Palladium Rifts fan site, the master skill list, and I just, in the master skill list, put in the word math, and there are 100 entries on this page. There's at least math basic and math advanced as skills. Yeah. And I forgot this because this is completely and utterly Palladium. They are requisites for you to take other skills. Like, you cannot take engineering unless you have taken basic and advanced math.
Yeah.
Oh, Palladium. You quirky.
Palladium is right.
Palladium had not only complicated, but also ridiculously random power levels of characters based on what you rolled.
Rift. I mean, Rifts is bonkers, right?
I'm not even talking Rift. I was talking like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Robotech or whatever. Like you did not want to be these three character classes because these other ones got 5 times as many skills.
It was a game that literally had like Scholar. Like Scholar was like somebody who had a whole bunch of skills.
Yeah.
And Glitter Boy, which was pilot of this armor suit with a rail gun on it.
Yeah.
These were characters in the same game. They did not have the same experiences in the game.
No.
I'm still baffled. I cannot fathom I cannot fathom what my thought process was back in the day when I decided to run a Palladium campaign for you people. I don't know what went through my mind, but I did, and I went out and I bought a shit ton of books. I ran that.
I'll say this. There's a reason you have to buy a shit ton of books
for
Palladium. Because you can't make NPCs in this game.
No.
Right? Like, when it takes like 6 hours to make a character, you sure shit aren't making the town guard to get murdered in 5 minutes. You need a book that already did that work. Listen, I ran Palladium all through the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
There is no... gonna choose my words carefully. In all the games I played, it is one of the most tedious. It's not complex.
Tedious.
It is one of the most tedious character creation systems I have ever played. It is. The number of skills are absurd.
Yep.
And you get them at like 20%. So you're gonna get cooking, but you're gonna get it like 35% at first level. So good luck cooking anything that's edible for like your first 5 levels as a character. Good luck that you'll ever need to roll for cooking in the campaign that you're gonna. This game, man,
it's
taking apart one of these games. Oh boy, here we go. Here's an idea for a
deep delve
for a different kind of deep dive. Taking apart a Palladium game to kind of look at.
It depends.
The gore.
It depends on the Palladium game because the problem with Palladium was some of their early games were designed to do one thing well. And as the games began to grow, until Rift, which we're not going to get to, they began to try to incorporate things. Like the first time they introduced Mega Damage was in Robotech.
Yes, which made perfect sense.
Which made perfect sense. If you get hit with a laser cannon, you're dead. When they tried to then bring that into other game systems, it fell apart. When they were doing things like mutations for Teenage Ninja Turtles and other strangeness, it worked. The character generation system had a few issues, but that game was still fairly easy to work with, and they gave you enough stuff you could quickly generate a very quick character. That game even had a quick generation thing in there for NPCs.
There's no quick generation for that game.
No, I thought there was just a random one for like random health, random stats, random bonus to hit, that kind of thing. I think there was one in the back for just NPCs. Maybe that was in one. That might have been in the companion, but as they got into trying to combine, okay, now let's combine mutations, magic, psionics, superpowers, and Mega Damage into one game system. Yeah.
Well, again, Rifts is the ultimate jump the shark.
Yes.
Rifts is like really like my 6th grade self being like, I'm taking all these Palladium books and I'm running all of it at the same time. And then they made a game like that. Like literally took my like somebody bugged my house in middle school and then was like, I can write you that game, kid. Like
yeah.
It'll just cost you your soul. Anyway, we should jump
back
onto
to number
top.
3.
Yes.
Final question. Which favorite way this mechanic's implemented?
For me, it's a toss-up. I like D&D 5e because it's simple and flexible. You simply, I'm going to assist. Great, you get an advantage die roll for it. I like Genesis though because when played right, that extra die can make a big difference. And because every time you add another die to the dice pool, it's not a huge dice pool. Every time you add a die to the dice pool, you are adding another narrative component to the game and leading towards a much more interesting result than just binary pass-fail. So that's what I like.
Cool. I personally am. I have to give a nod to 5e D&D for the advantage. You know, it's like, oh, you're assisting, they have advantage. Boom, done, simple, nice and easy. I'm a fan of anything that's simple and easy to implement. When it comes to like leaning one way or another for like things I enjoy, I really kind of like the extra die where you like can physically hand the die to the other player. That's just a neat visual representation of the whole thing. It's like, okay, here's the die, may it help you. That kind of thing. So I like that. But anything that's simple and easy to implement, that's where I want to go.
Can I give D&D one also a little pat in the back for this one thing, which is that at least as written, and especially as the first set of GMs that they trained at Gen Con, they encouraged us to give advantage a lot. There was not the idea of don't scrutinize your players to try to make sure that they're definitely giving it. If your players come up with something that seems even remotely feasible, just give it to them, encourage that. And I like the fact that as a game, the core design from the release of 5th edition was leaning into that flexibility as opposed to making it difficult for the players.
Well, it was a nice change too, because
Yeah.
the previous versions of fiddly bits and lots of little bonuses here and there. This is a bonus and that's a bonus, and then you're doing a bunch of math to get your total number.
Yep.
It's like simplifying that down to advantage and disadvantage. Boom, here you go. It was such a nice, simple way to clean that up that it's like, yeah, if it sounds reasonably feasible, give them advantage. Just go with it because it's more fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's a much easier system. It also gets rid of like whole messes of bonuses and stuff like that. You're just like, take an extra die. It's good stuff.
How about you, Phil?
I like it. All right. So I have to say another game besides Hydra Hackers, because I'm not gonna lie, I like my Hydra Hackers move, right? Like I will, I have to be a little I will be a little immodest here. I do like the idea of tying it to how well you get along with people. I kind of dug, like, it's a mechanic that I really
it's a clever
really
idea
love about that game. But I also am a fan, like you said, of the Burning Wheel one. Like, I really like the idea of here, right? Like it actually is you helping, right? Like, here's my die, right?
Yep.
Like, here, take this. Here's my die. Go ahead and roll it. I hope it does you well, right? I think that's, like, I'm not a huge Burning Wheel is not a game that I really got into. I don't want to say I'm not a fan because it's my Mount Everest of games, because one day when I retire, I'm going to teach myself how to play Burning Wheel. But I love that act because it is actually the actual act. Like, it's not just the mechanic. It's not just narrative. It's not just mechanical. It's actually a third part, which is the player level.
Yep.
Because a lot of games will just be like, oh, take the +1. Oh, hey, thanks, man. Right? Or, or, oh, hey, you get a +1. Oh, cool. And they just, grab an extra die from their pool, build up their pool or whatever. But the act of like, hey, here's my die. Like, here's my rainbow die. Roll it. Like, this is one of my good ones. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's cool. I think it's cool. And I think I will probably someday in the future, I will someday pull that into a game at some point, because I think that's a really neat, symbolic mechanic. So cool. All right, that is a garage episode. I hope people found it interesting. We haven't done a full episode in a while. I think I think to be truthful, we were taking it a little easy, doing some lighter shows or whatever. I do enjoy actually rolling up sleeves and kind of doing a more meaty episode. This one was a lot of fun, and it's a redux, which is always fun to I get to go back and I look at the original show notes and kind of see how much stuff is still true and how much stuff is kind of like, have we gotten deeper or more evolved about? And we definitely got deeper on the what it means to a game to have a help, like to have the assist mechanic in there. Like we went a lot deeper than the original notes back in what is it, 163? So that's like 2017 or something. It's ridiculous, right?
Been a while.
I mean, it's pre-Bob, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pre-Bob.
That's pre-Bob. Like that's like as if it did that we weren't even good then. That's pre-Bob. So anyway, it's cool. I hope people found it helpful. We'll definitely do some more of these. And we're gonna check in with the chat room, see if they got anything before they go.
Senda was questioning not Love and Justice.
Oh, because the Love and Justice help mechanic.
Yeah.
Well, the cool part with the Love and Justice help mechanic, oh boy, I can't remember if this is true or not because I remember like 6 versions of this game in development. But I want to say that everyone has to help once. Is that right? You have to help in order to unlock the group power. Oh, tell me if I'm right on that.
That sounds familiar.
Schmitty and
It's
Senda
been
are
a
in
long
there, the
time
2
since
people
I
who've won
played.
the game.
We changed.
We changed that. That was one of the rules back many versions ago. That's the worst part about developing a game is that even now when I run Hydro Hackers, I have to go look up rules because I'm like, wait, is that a rule? And then I'm like, nope, it was a rule.
Yeah, when you're developing, you get so deep in the weeds that you start to lose the boundary between versions. Like I was looking at Circle of Six not that long ago and was like, wait, do I still do that? No. We get rid of that. No. We do it this way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's designer. That's the designer curse is that you'll never remember the actual rules to your game because you remember all of the rules to your game.
Yeah.
The Love and Justice mechanic is that you have to use those dice that are out there. They're pre-laid out on the table.
Yeah.
And if you don't use them, they're all ones when they start. If you don't use them, then they stay ones and they screw you.
Right.
So you're encouraged to use them.
Yes.
To try and help yourself out at the end. So
very smart.
Yeah, that's a clever way to do that.
Indeed.
Cool.
All right, take us to the conversation corner.
All right, where's my little thingamajigger? Welcome to the Super Friends. All right, conversation corner. Let's do this thing.
Cool. Stuff that's going on in our lives.
Stuff and things because reasons.
I think 2 of us have one of these in common.
Yeah.
It's the first one on Bob's list.
First thing on my list is Hamilton. Hamilton dropped on Disney Plus, and let me just say, holy crap, not at all what I expected. I had heard some of the songs before because Chris was playing them on several occasions because he had seen the show and loves it. And I was like, okay, interesting. It's a bio play about a historical figure, but it uses modern storytelling and music styles. So there's like hip hop and a diverse cast, which was amazing. The songs were awesome. The performances. I always get. I'm good with names. Philippa Sue is her name. She played Hamilton's wife, and I can't think. Doggone name now. She has the most amazing voice. Like everybody was good, but there's something about when Eliza starts singing, I like just
have you, by the way, did you go onto YouTube and see that Jimmy Fallon and the Roots did a at home recording with like the whole cast of Hamilton? Oh yeah, I'll go look it up while you keep talking about Hamilton. I'll go find it.
Yeah, so that was amazing. And there were parts of it where I was like, wait a minute, her singing sounds so familiar, but I've never heard this song before, and I've obviously never seen Hamilton. And then it finally struck me when I looked up the cast list. She did singing for Moana. And I'm like, aha!
So did
Lin-Manuel Miranda and there were a ton of people in that performance that I've seen in other places. the actor who played Philip Hamilton and the other character at the beginning, who I'm losing the name, but he is in a prominent Crown Royal commercial right now, among other things that he's done. Aaron Burr, that's why all of a sudden can I not think of anybody's name? The actor who played Aaron Burr is amazing. He's been in a ton of stuff. Just a ton of amazing actors and actresses, and the singing talents. It's a remarkable show, and I highly recommend it. It's fun and it's entertaining.
I loved so much about it, but some of the ones that really stole it for me, Jefferson is amazing. It like in the second act, Jefferson is just Thomas Jefferson is just outrageous. The King George parts.
King George is awesome.
King George is amazing as well. Yeah.
It's good stuff, and it's there are a lot of seriously emotional beats in that play, and it's just like remarkable. If you're a fan of musicals, then you owe it to yourself to see this particular musical, because it's amazing for how it's done, and it's not what like I said, it's not what I expected. Like when you go in and see this thing, it's like it's a historical piece, but it's got modern music styles, and that's been done before. A Knight's Tale. Like I didn't watch A Knight's Tale because I'm like, I don't want to see a bunch of knights jousting to We Will Rock You. That's just stupid. But this is just like, I was like,
there is no middle ground.
Yeah.
There is no middle ground on the music to that movie.
Yeah.
You either are like, oh, that's cool, or you were like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
And I just didn't dig it. But
no, that's fair.
This is amazing. This is good stuff. In addition to that, I've been enjoying the hell out of the Star Trek watch party. Definitely enjoying that. Looking forward to tonight. I've been watching season 2 of the Big Hero 6 series on Disney Plus.
Oh wow!
Big Hero 6 it's a ton of fun. It's clearly the series is geared toward kids, but they do some really good storytelling. In season 1, season 1 was amazing. Season 2, I'm not 100% sure yet if I like season 1 better or if season 2 is better, but it's fun storytelling. It's very superhero tropey. They throw in the teen angst, the young person angles and stuff. A lot of fun. And I finally did my taxes because I didn't have to have them turned in by April 15th. So I was like, all right, I don't have to do it. I'm gonna wait. And I finally sat down and did it. So I did not get money back. I owed both, but it was a fairly minimal amount, and I had a good year last year. Like I did a shit ton of freelance work, and like it was a buff year for Bob as far as his income went. So I was like, I owe a few $100 here and there. So I'm like, whatever. Next year will be different because this is a pretty thin year so far. But,
yeah. No doubt.
But yeah, that's where I've been hanging out. Jerry, what about you? Oh,
I was just gonna footnote. So on YouTube, dropped on June 27th, Jimmy Fallon and the original Hamilton cast and the Roots sing "Helpless" with at-home instruments. So nice. They're all recording. They're all like recording on. I don't think it's Zoom. I think they're all recording themselves, and then it got all mixed together, and it's fantastic.
There was a thing that I saw that was along the same lines. Someone was talking to a young girl who had tickets to go see Hamilton for the first time, and she's like dying to go see this thing, and then everything locked down because of the pandemic. And so she was on a call talking to somebody on Zoom, and I forget who it was, but then all of a sudden they brought in Lin-Manuel Miranda, and he started singing. And then bam, 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 all these people from the cast started joining in from their homes and singing this song. And this just blew this girl away.
Oh, that's
She was
awesome.
practically in tears. It was amazing.
That's very cool.
That's really cool, actually. I like that.
All right. Next.
Well, I am still in my watch of Elementary, which has been more delightful than I ever expected it would. It is also helping me to do detective story beats a lot better, which is helpful because the last two scenarios that I've been running in Eberron were both kind of investigative adventures. But I just like the cast, and Elementary, as I've said before, is a really good example of how to take existing properties, change them in a good way, but keep them true to the feel of the original, but update them properly. I've been enjoying Star Trek. I really liked the last season. A lot of the funnier tropes that I've been kind of goofing around about have started to finally get fixed in the new season. We don't see Worf get clowned down as much anymore. We joked around that the Enterprise is actually loading photon torpedoes before they go into combat, things like that. But the show itself actually just has some really good writing and some really heartfelt stories. Just because I've had a little bit of extra time, I've been, also because I haven't been doing a lot of Minecraft, I've been doing a lot more Legos, and I've been digging out boxes of sets that I haven't put together before and finally assembling some of the larger sets. And I forgot how much I really enjoy building the bigger sets and the neat little details they do. And the Lego therapy is just good for kind of easing my brain when I have some weirder days. And I've still got a closet full of unopened boxes of Legos. And I mean a literal walk-in closet full. I've got to have at least 100 unopened sets. So
I've seen that closet.
Stuff out. Yes, you have. What, am I exaggerating?
No.
No. So I've been doing this with the bigger sets, which take a longer time because so the big sets you have to decide. It's going to take you 4 hours to put this thing together, so you better have some time set aside. So it's cool. It's been very and I love learning new build techniques as I do it. So it's been fun. It's replacing my Warhammer collecting from the years before.
Cool.
So how about you, Phil?
So I did Hamilton, like we talked about. I have been finishing up my watching of DS9. So remember, I went from mid-season 3 all the way through season 7, and then I looped back around, and I started on season 1 and working my way back towards mid-season 3. I'm like mid-season 2 right now. And I'm using that to compile the Deep Space Nine watch party list. I will tell you right now, So TNG right now is 63 episodes. I've added 3 episodes since we originally created the list. Right now, my rough list for DS9 is like 120 episodes.
Yep.
Like I cannot. It's too hard to pare this series down because it's so much more serial that you just have to you got to see this episode, then you got to see this episode, then you got to see this episode. Like there are especially as you get into the later seasons, there are very few episodes that are standalone throwaways. And if they are standalones, they're often exceptional. So they fall in for other reasons. Like most of season 7 is in the watch list.
Yeah. DS9 is literally that much better a show.
I definitely think it is. I mean, there are people who will argue in all sorts of directions. But I did yesterday on my final day off of my 4-day weekend, I watched the DS9 documentary, What We Leave Behind. Okay. And that is amazing. Yeah, I don't want to say anything about it. If you were a fan of Deep Space Nine, for like $3.99, you can rent it on YouTube. It's 2 hours long. It is it has the cast, it has the producers, the directors, it has it's all in different segments, but the real gem, I can't say the real gem because the whole thing's really good, but one of the gems in it is that instead of just getting the writers together to talk about the show, they put the lead writers in a room and they outline season 8, episode 1. Oh, what it would look like if they were going to do Deep Space Nine today, like a new like a pickup of where they left off 20 years later. Holy shit! I would watch 26 episodes of that after they put that story together in the writers' room, and they put most of that story together, and they even do like little animations to pair it with it. it is really a treat. When we get through Deep Space Nine, I will try to figure out a way where we can all watch it together. And if not, I'll encourage people to go watch it, because having finished the series and hearing everybody talk about it is really good. And it was really positive. It's at times very honest of its own, like critiquing itself. One of the things I love is that they made the actors read the hate mail.
Oh my.
Like not the hate mail directed at them, but at the show, because Deep Space Nine was not as popular as Next Gen or Voyager because it didn't go anywhere, right? People were bent on that, the Trek part of Star Trek. But I will say, 20 years later, I think it's the best series that they ever made. I don't think it got the love that it deserved in the 90s, even though Bob and I were devout watchers of that show. And it did a lot. I forgot the context of it. It did a lot for serial storytelling. Oh, yeah. Like, you wouldn't have Game of Thrones today if Deep Space Nine wasn't putting out serial content back in the early 90s.
Probably not.
Like, it was pushing boundaries. Anyway, it's fantastic. I loved it to pieces. Anyway, I did that. I've been reading at night, right? So I've been reading different physical volumes, right? Because I'm not reading from screens. So I pulled a game off my shelf to read the other night, which is a classic, a favorite of ours, The Whispering Vault.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot in my heart for this 90s hero horror. It may be like a good way to put it. It calls itself a horror game, but I think it's really like a horror supers game.
Kind of.
You're basically like supernatural superheroes beating up on horrors.
Yep.
But as I'm reading the book, like, I can see that it's like a 90s game. Like, it's this gritty horror game, and there's no safety chapter.
Yeah.
I mean, and there wouldn't be because it was a 90s game, but I'm like, oh boy, would this game, like, and I'm thinking back on I think back on the times when I ran it, and I'm like, oh boy, would it have been good to have like at least just lines and veils. Like, oh boy. Like,
yeah, luckily we never ran into anything that like severely was like, whoa.
No,
we had some moments where it was like, oh, that was disgusting, but we were all like still on board with it.
Yeah, I mean, I could think of a few moments where having some lines and veils ahead of time would have saved us a little bit. But yeah, anyway, I'm enjoying reading it. It is a very stylish game. It is a very it's remarkably my speed for a 90s game. It's actually very rules light. So much so it has to keep talking about it in the rules, because it's like, well, we know that we didn't put a very detailed tactical combat system in this game, but we don't think it needs it. And I'm reading it now like, of course you don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I read through the combat system. I'm like, this combat system is perfectly serviceable. Like, there is nothing wrong with this combat system.
Yeah. If I recall correctly, isn't that Mike Nistel?
Yeah. Yeah, Mike Nistel. What is it? One of the handful of people that ever had a D&D spell named after themselves, not their character.
Yeah.
Nistel's Magical Aura.
Yep.
I have this sinking feeling that there's something really, like, I have a sinking feeling that Mike Nistel did not fare well over time.
You mean from not being a shitty human being perspective?
Correct. I have this. I'm nervous.
A lot of the old school didn't come into the new era very well.
I'm thinking that there was some like Kickstarter issue or something. Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I'm nervous because it's setting off my spidey sense. Like, Anyway, I'm not going to talk about the author anymore. I'm just going to talk about the game.
Yep.
The Whispering Vault has been a fun read. The artwork's really cool. It's It's a real black and white evocative, creepy, really creepy art, like very fitting. The layout's a little primitive, but solid 90s. Like it's a solid 90s game for 120 pages, I think. Like it's definitely playable. We may dust it off and play it sometime. I think that might be fun. I've been playing a little more Mario Kart Tour on my phone. That's a nice end of day distraction thing. And in my 4 days, I really chilled. Like I really needed to unplug from my project. I was a little messy, mental health wise, coming down from the meeting the milestone from the project with like a panic attack and a few other things. Pretty much I thought my heart was going to bust out of my chest for no reason. So I'm pretty sure it was a panic attack. But yeah, in 4 days, like I went to work today, I logged in at my desk for work, and I was in much better shape, like much better place, mental health wise. 4 days was a very good idea. It was a very good idea. So anyway, yeah. I know my everything this week is always the same thing because I just keep watching Deep Space Nine, but I'm almost done with it, and I promise that I'm just going to be watching Voyager. Oh, I'm just going to mention one last thing before we jump to the Patreon shoutouts. I don't know if anyone else saw it, but Star Trek Adventures just released the Klingon book.
Yep.
And in a move that I love, it is not a source book. They released it as a core book. So you don't need the other books to play if you wanted to just play Klingons. Everything you need is in the main book. They have ways for integrating it so that you can do like Worf and things like that and have Klingons in Starfleet. But if you want to just play the all-out Klingon campaign, you could just go buy this book. I think it's on pre-order right now. Pretty cool. Kapla.
Kapla. So what is Kapla?
Victory, I believe, is
okay.
I'm pretty sure my Klingon's a little rusty. Check.
Because Picard says it a lot, but I don't remember them actually telling you what it means.
Success. Yeah, it means success. It's Klingons often say to each other instead of like goodbye and stuff like that. So if like you're heading off to battle or something like that, kapla. So, nice. Yeah, because there's been we got to see in the last week of watching, I believe was it reunification or not reunification? Redemption 1 and 2.
Yep.
Were part of the watch, and that's
he says it twice in there.
Yes, success.
So, yeah.
Yes. The other popular Klingon phrase, which is often used to end a conversation, is "It's a good day to die."
My favorite.
That's a Worf favorite. That's a Worf favorite later on.
It's one of my favorite scenes from First Contact. First Contact is perhaps it is a good day to die, and then you get a shining moment of awesome. Yes. I was gonna say shining moment of awesome. Yep.
Bob's Redemption 2 is one of Bob's favorite lines in all of Star Trek.
Which is what?
Yeah.
The Duras family will rise again.
We will one day rule the Empire. And then Gowron looks up and goes, perhaps, but not today.
Not today.
With his bugged eyes.
Yeah.
If you read that actor's Wikipedia entry, he was specifically hired because of that eye thing that he does when he acts. Like it was not that is not by accident. Gowron's eyes are it is a trope in Star Trek.
Gowron memes are just so great. I
love whatchamacallit. I mean I love Gowron. And then later when we get into Deep Space Nine, you'll meet Martok, who is equally an amazing character.
Yeah. Good
They
times.
did a good job with the Klingons.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyway, we should mosey on out and do a little after showing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, you want to hit some Patreon shoutouts?
I would love to. So, shouting out tonight to Jim Morrison,
Wow.
Joe, yeah.
On the other side.
Yeah. Joe Rasso, John, just John, MT Black, Matthew Petrozelli, Padme's Lover, Robert Dorgan, Ryan Bolter, Texas Bento.
Can we stop for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want a Texas bento box. Like I want like a Whataburger and like just a couple of, couple things like a brisket, couple.
Yes.
Yes.
Deep fried pickles.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Please, sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry, Texas Bento. Your name's new on the list, and all of a sudden, I just had this craving for like a bento box of all Texas deliciousness.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
And finally, Troy Pitchelman.
Hey,
Troy. All right. Thank you for being our patrons, and thank you everyone for listening tonight.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, come join us live on Twitch where you can hang out with the awesome listeners in the chat room for life and ask us the occasional question as we do our thing.
If you cannot make it to the live show, gather your team and check out our podcast each week, wherever you get your podcasts. Take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Bones Thrown Obsidian, the FM Gamers, Panda's Talking Games, the Gnome Cast, Zhang Hu Hustle, She's a Super Geek, and Bonus Experience. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming and BS.
Before you make your roll, gather up some assistance and leave us some feedback. You all can reach us directly via email, mmp@misdirectedmark.com, or check us out on Twitter. The show and the network is at MisdirectedMark. He's at Robert M. Everson. He's at GM Gerrymander. I'm DNA Phil.
If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Down with D&D, and Panda's Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. She's a Super Geek is at patreon.com/SassGeek. Zhang Hu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhang Hu Hustle. And Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Down with D&D, and Panda's Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, which I was writing one earlier today, and the Panda's Talking Games bonus outtakes, along with other occasional special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out.